For watching this in YouTube, if you're attending for the first time, please type FT. So it's time for us to get started. And I believe all of you have your notepad and pen with you. If not, please don't take it. Again, you'll have some key points to make note of in the session. If you already have it, please type proactive. And if you don't have it, go and take your notepad and pen, then come and type action taken. If you already have your notepad and pen, type proactive, take pride. And if you don't have, nothing wrong. You have time, go and take your notepad and pen, then come and type action taken. Arvind is proactive. Prasun, always proactive. Gaurav, proactive. Yeah. So this is our topic for the day. How to identify fund diversions. And this is something very important in case of corporate clients or business entities. Whenever you lend to corporate clients or business entities, as a banker, as a credit officer, or as a branch manager or bank manager, you should really have this skill. Okay, you should know what conveys diversion of fund, because many times on the face of the transaction, it may not be possible for you to conclude whether it is a diversion or not. Okay, so this is basically a skill which you have to develop, and very, very critical and crucial skill. Okay, and before even we get into the presentation, let me just take a couple of minutes to introduce myself. So here you see me, that's me. I'm CN Raja, Chartered Accountant, founder of CA Raja Classes, and I started my career in State Bank of India. I joined as credit analyst. In short period, elevated as team leader, credit processing cell, handled more than 250 plus projects, 5,000 crore plus size. That was a period of for a period of 4 years. Then came out and started my CA practice. Had my practice for a period of 7.5 years. Again, the focus was more on project funding, debt syndication. Parallelly, I also developed my online training academy, CA Raja Classes, and it reached a stage where we crossed actually 2 lakh plus students. Okay, we have now 2 lakh plus students all over the world taking up banking courses, finance, advanced financial management. That's on the professional side. And on the personal side, I'm father of 2 children, happily settled in God's own country. Okay, yeah. With this background, let's get into the presentation. So are you all ready? Shall we start? Can you please type start? Please type start. It's basically to check whether we are connected. So now and then I keep asking you to type out something like this. Please participate. Please participate. Okay, thank you so much. For the first 5 minutes, it's going to be really, really fundamental. What's our focus here? It's basically to find out or how to identify diversion of funds. So why you should identify this? See, when banks gives loan, generally it will be for a specific purpose. Forget about loans given for individuals and all. Okay, individuals, most of the time they take it for their personal purpose, for their personal use. Okay, but when bank give loan to business entities, okay, B means business entities, it's basically for specific purpose. And if it is used for that specific purpose, then it's fine. But if it is not used for specific purpose, and if it is diverted for some other purposes, then it will become a problem. Because banks would have assessed the viability, the repayment capacity based on that specific purpose only. I repeat, banks would have assessed the viability, repayment capacity, everything on the basis of that specific purpose. Let's say, for example, the loan is given for working capital purpose. So here bank would have assessed the ability, the repayment capacity, everything based on the cash flows that is going to be generated from this working capital, okay, or say the operations of the business. But if that loan, which is given for working capital purpose, if that is used for some other purpose, let's say for acquiring some plant and machinery, or some long-term advances, or some investments in something else, then that's going to create a problem, because the original assessment is based on working capital, but the actual utilization is something else. And because of that, or because of this diversion, it is possible that money may not come back as envisaged. It means it will put this account into stress. It will put this account into stress, and eventually it may even happen that account can become a non-performing asset. Okay, that account can become non-performing asset. So this is the background I want to set. So far everything is smooth. The audio, video, just type yes. A single alphabet S is enough. Just type yes. Again, it's a cross check for me. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Let's continue now. See, whenever there is a diversion of fund, you come across how to identify diversion, that we'll see. But whenever there is a diversion of fund, it's an indicator, or we can say it's an indicator of potential NPA. It's an indicator of potential NPA, because when funds are given for specific purpose, even then that account becomes NPA because of various macro factors. Then imagine funds are given for purpose 1, but it is used for purpose 2, and if things goes wrong, then for sure those accounts will become non-performing assets. See, Reserve Bank actually conducted a study. I used to share this in all my webinars. Reserve Bank has conducted a study why business units are becoming sick, why they are becoming non-performing assets. And the conclusion was because of poor marketing, poor sales, competition, quality, HR, labor issues, legal issues, all those, but all those contributed only for 5%. It means remaining 95% of business units have become non-performing asset only because of this single reason called diversion of funds. Okay, to put it correctly, diversion of short-term funds for long-term purposes. I repeat, diversion of short-term funds for long-term purposes has only caused this havoc. That is 95% of business units are failing only because of this reason. Okay, so it is in this context, understanding this topic becomes very, very important. Okay, so are you all with me? Please type with you. Please type with you. I know I'm asking you to type very frequently. Okay, this is to ensure that it acts like a two-way communication. Okay, so please type with you. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Now, as a bank executive, especially as a credit officer, or say credit analyst or loan officer, whatever, and as a branch manager, it is very important you develop the skill to identify diversion of funds. Because if you take business entities, if you think that you can identify diversion of funds just by going through the bank statement, then it will become really tedious, because they'll have volumes and volumes of transaction. Okay, if it is slightly an established SME, MSME and all, they'll have volumes and volumes of transaction, and it may not be that easy to identify diversion on the face of the transaction itself. You'll get to know that diversion has happened only at a later point. So before even entering into a relationship with customer, that is whenever you receive a new proposal, say from business entities, at the time itself, you have to judge whether they are the people who does this diversion as a routine job. Because they can manage for some time, but it cannot be perennial. Okay, they can divert short-term funds for long-term purpose, then they can arrange some other fund, then they can manage the show. But at some point, it will get struck, or at some point, that bubble will burst. So eventually, whoever handled that last, it becomes their baby. Okay, so how many of you are agreeing with me? Just type agree. Because it will start with one branch, or it will start with one manager or one officer. It will keep on be ballooning. It will keep on be ballooning, 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 ballooning. And eventually it will land in someone else's hand. Okay. So those are all the cases where you are already vetted. What I'm saying here is, when you get a new customer, at the time itself, you do this filtering. Okay. Be very clear. If they are the people who does this diversion of fund as a job, it means they are high risk customer for the bank. Okay, right. So what are the indicators, or what are the tools that are available for identifying the diversion of fund? One very basic tool, which most of us know, almost all of us would have worked with, and very simple tool to identify the diversion of fund is, very simple tool. Can someone answer this? Very simple tool available to identify the diversion of fund. Let me see whether anyone is answering. A bank statement, I agree. Yeah, I need 2 or 3 more answers. Very simple tool, just on look on the face, you'll be able to see. I got answer from 2 participants. A very simple tool, current ratio. Current ratio will communicate whether there is any diversion or not on the face. On the face. Of course, that comes from CMA. Yeah, Amar says balance sheet. Yes, from balance sheet we pick the information for preparing the current ratio, and Prasun said it correctly. And I think yeah, Ankit Gupta also said it. Current ratio. See, how do we calculate current ratio? It is simple: current asset divided by current liability. Okay. So if current ratio is greater than 1, what does that mean? It means you have current assets greater than current liability. It means your resources are greater than obligations. Okay, so that indicates, yes, comfort. But what is current ratio below 1 indicates? If current ratio below 1, it means current assets are less than current liability, or put it otherwise, current liabilities are greater than current assets. Current liabilities are greater than current assets. Let's say current liability is 100 and current asset is 80. So automatically, what will happen? The ratio here, current asset by current liability, 80 by 100. Automatically, the ratio will be below 1. And look, they've raised 100 as current liability, but they have used it for creating current assets only 80. So what happened to that remaining 20? Where did this current liability gone? Simple, diverted. It is diverted. So the very simple tool available to measure whether there is any diversion of short-term funds for long-term purpose, if you ask me, it is current ratio. So when the current ratio is below 1, you can close your eyes and say there is a diversion of short-term funds for long-term purpose. But if you want to know its seriousness, okay, which funds have been diverted, where that diversion had taken place, where and all that money had gone. If you want to know all those, then you have to go little deeper and deeper. But this will be like security. Okay, security standing in the gate. He is going to tell you that, sir, there is a diversion. Take care. Okay, so it's a simple tool. Current ratio below 1 means there is a diversion, and that indicates exercise caution. I know it's a very simple one, but I hope it gives you some insight. Okay. So if it is cool, just type cool. So keep yourself engaged. Keep yourself engaged. And this is not something I invented. Okay. This is the fundamental, and this is what all the bankers do. Okay. Right. So that's about current ratio. This is the first two. Now let's go a little deeper, because current ratio has indicated there is a diversion. So now you have to find out where the money gone. Okay, because if there is a diversion, and if the diversion is going to come back, then that business is safe. But if diversion is diversion with no intention to come back, then that becomes a risky or serious business. Okay, that becomes a risky or serious business. Let's see. In balance sheet, in the asset side, in order to trace this diversion, you have to put your focus on this heading, loans and advances. Okay, you will be seeing this loans and advances. Of course, obviously that schedule will be there. You may find it in both current asset and non-current asset. Okay, you will find it in both current asset and non-current asset. See here, even though these are used interchangeably, there is actually a difference. Okay, there is a difference between loan and advances. In banking angle also there is a difference, right? Loans and advances are not same, they are different, right? Can someone tell me what is the difference between loans and advances? Why we say loan and why we are also using advance? Okay, we'll just clear off that, then we'll proceed. So please tell me what is the difference between loans and advances. Yeah, Partha is saying there is some issue in the screen. Whether the screen is visible, I mean, is it legible? Whatever I'm writing. Yeah, it's legible. So Partha, I think it should be on your side. Okay, so my basic question now is, what is the difference between loans and advances? We'll just clear this off, then we'll proceed. You can just type, I'll read out, I'll call your name and I'll read out. Ankit Gupta is saying advance to supplier. No, my question is, why we are using two different terms, loans, advances? In banking also we have no loans and advances. Okay, Amit is saying advance is just like given to employees. Prasun is saying loans are basically for long term. Then I have another answer, long term and short term in nature. Amit is saying it will be returned. Okay. Yeah, what about others? Okay, your cash credit comes under loans or advance. From the banking angle, let's clarify this from banking angle. Yeah, Gaurav is saying advance for business purpose and loan mainly like home loan, vehicle loan. Nageshwar Rao, advance may not be having interest. I don't think so. Amar saying these are investment. Prasun says advances are source of short-term funding. Gaurav, advance. Amal, loans are installment systems, advanced working capital. That is like hit on the name. Okay. From the banking angle, because when you give a loan, you give a fixed definite repayment schedule. Okay. And advances, generally you give it like repayable on demand model. Okay. That's why I asked you. Cash credit, OD, all those comes under advances. Whereas the term loans, the medium term loans. Okay. Okay. That's from banking angle. And from business angle, let's divide this. Loan is separate, advance is separate. See, advances, businesses generally will be required to pay advances for various purposes. Okay. They may have to pay advance for purchase of raw material. Somebody indicated purchase of raw material. For that, you have to pay advance to supplier. That can happen. You may have to pay advance for purchasing some capital asset. Let's say you want to buy plant and machinery. For that, you have to pay advance. Or let's say you take building on rent. For that, you have to make some lease advance. or even for taxes, income tax, you have to pay in advance. So advance tax payments. So all these possibilities are there. Okay. So we can say these advances are routine or regular transactions. They are routine or regular transaction of the business. And generally, it will not be used as a route for diversion because it is given for certain specific purposes. But here, you cannot be blindfolded. You should not be blindfolded because since it gets the nature that it's going to be for business purpose, some mischievous companies, they'll be taking the shelter of advances. Okay. So they'll have advance for supplier, they'll have advance for some asset, advances for lease deposit, and they'll also have some other advances. Okay. Where no breakup will be available. No information will be available in the financial statement unless and until you call for. Okay. So please have your attention on this item, other advances. If it is a material amount, when I say material amount, if it is a big amount, then you have to ask for the schedule. You have to satisfy yourself to whom this advance is given. Is it given to related parties? Is it given to sister concerns? Is it given to associate concerns? Or is it given to some subsidiary companies? Satisfy yourself. Okay. So generally advances will have only business related advances like this, whatever I discussed, but there will be something under other advances. Whenever it is other advances, get the breakup. You may see some mischievous companies using this route. Okay. So if the breakup of advance is not provided in the financial statements, you should call for the statement and you should have a look at the breakup because possibilities are there. I won't say that everyone will do this, but mischievous companies. So who are mischievous companies? When you come across current ratio below 1. See, I'm not stamping all. Okay. Please excuse me if I, or apologies if I sounded in that tone. I'm not stamping all, but there are companies which do it intentionally. They raise funds and they divert it. On the face, it may not be visible, but current ratio alone will communicate that there is a diversion. So if you want to know where it went, it will happen through other advances. So this is learning number 1. Okay. So if you are clear with this, just type CC, concept clear. It means I want you to focus on assets, loans and advances, under advances, have your focus more on other advances. Okay. Perfect. So it's clear. Good. So the key here is you have to satisfy yourself about the purpose and quality of the advance. Okay. And you should also ensure whether this other advance is classified correctly. So whenever you get the breakup of this other advance, excuse me. Yeah. So my stylus is not cooperating. Let me check. Yeah. So whenever you get the breakup of this other advance, you please compare that figure with previous year. Let's say in current year, you have other advance 10 crore. This is current year. In the previous year, it is 9 crore. So what happened to the other advance? It has actually increased by 1 crore. Okay, fine. So now you get the breakup. When you get the breakup, you understand that this 9 crore remained same, no change. Okay. Then an additional 1 crore is added. And let's say it is to the same party. So previous year also 9 crore, current year also 9 crore. Absolutely, there is no movement in this 9 crore. Okay. And everything is captured under current assets advances. Everything is captured under current assets advances. Whether this treatment is right. Yes or no? Previous year 9 crore captured under current asset. Okay. Current year also this 9 crore is captured under current asset and another 1 crore is added. So current asset now looks like 10 crore. Past year means previous year. Okay. This is not correct, but this kind of practice is also adopted by mischievous companies. Okay. So actually previous year 9 crore means previous year, what was the understanding? It was expected to be realized within 1 year. So in the current year, again, they are saying 9 crore. So previous year definition of current asset itself is wrong. So in the current year, if they are saying it will be received within another 1 year, then you have to really satisfy yourself whether this treatment of 9 crore is correct or wrong. Okay. It means again, the company is maintaining that this 9 crore will be recovered within 1 year. But last year also they said the same thing. Current year also they are saying same thing. So you have to really satisfy yourself. Probably they would have convinced their auditor. Okay, but as a banker, you got to be a little more conservative. You have to say that this 9 crore, even though it is sitting in other current asset, okay, under loans and advances, it does not fit into the definition of current asset. So on a conservative angle, we are shifting it to non-current asset. And when you do that, automatically their current ratio will go for a toss. Okay. Here, I'm not saying this to make the life of customer difficult. Rather, I'm saying this to have a clear picture of your customer. Okay. And you will also be safeguarded. As a credit officer, when you identify this and when you present this in the CMA statement, instead of classifying it under current asset, if you have taken a proactive call and if you are directing or taking this 9 crore to other current asset, you are doing good for the bank, because bank is getting to know the real phase of the customer, the real financial position of the customer. Otherwise, just imagine this 10 crore will be sitting in current asset, it will be giving a wonderful current ratio. But when you do this, automatically the current ratio will come below 1, okay, or the current ratio will dip. Okay, so this treatment, okay, that is shifting the 9 crore from current asset to non-current asset, will enable the bank to identify the real liquidity position of the borrower, real financial position, and it will also bring to light the diversion that have taken place. Okay, so is this clear? Okay, you are learning number 2. If the concept is clear, type CC. Learning number 2, if the concept is clear, type CC. Good, perfect. Let's move on. Yeah, this is about advances, and we have just talked from current assets point of view. And I said you have to check the classification whether it is correctly classified, and that's why we initiated this. From current asset, we shifted to non-current asset. Maybe changing that in the financials of the borrower is not possible because already that would have been audited, finalized, and all. You would have received the audited financial statement. But in your CMA, in your analysis, you can put a note and you can say this is the position. So this amount, instead of being classified under current asset, it is classified under non-current asset. Okay, right. Next, let's touch on loans. I said advances are routine or regular item. Advances are routine or regular item, and it happens almost for everything like taxes, supplier, advances, deposit, everything. But why business entities should give loan? Are they into lending business? They are not into lending business. Okay. So if they are giving loan, it is for non-business purpose, unless and until they are bank or financial institution. Okay. So loans means it is for non-business purpose. It is for non-business purpose. Of course, I said banks, financial institutions, NBFCs are exempt. So as a credit officer, when you come across loan in the balance sheet, in the schedule, you have to satisfy yourself about the nature of the loan. You have to satisfy yourself about the terms and conditions of the loan. So what is important here is from where this loan was given. Okay, was it given from surplus funds? Let's say, for example, the company is making amazing profits. Okay, the company's current ratio is wonderful. It is greater than 1.33 or 1.5. Their TOL by TNW is also amazing. It is, let's say, below 2. So they are surplus in all aspects. And if they are giving loan, okay, there is some justification to it. But on the other side, if the company is already under liquidity pressure, let's say the company's current ratio is below 1 or it's close to 1. So the company is already reeling under liquidity pressure. That's on one side. Company's profit margin is also very thin. And company TOL by TNW, it is highly leveraged, let's say greater than 3 or 5 as the case may be. Keeping all this on one side, if the company is going to give loans left and right on the other side, let's say to their sister concerns, associate concerns, then it's a clear-cut case of diversion. It's a clear-cut case of diversion of borrowed funds for non-business purpose. Because when the profit margin is thin, they cannot give loan out of profit. When their leverage is very high, it means their equity is very low. They cannot give loan out of equity. When the current ratio is below 1, it means they have more of current liabilities. So they have more of current liabilities and they are using that current liability to give it as loans to their sister concerns, associates, related parties. So it's like borrowing through one company and giving it to other company. So funds are going to go and this will disappear. So it's a clear-cut case of diversion of borrowed funds for non-business purpose. So as a prudent banker, you have to ask for breakup of all these loans. As a prudent banker, you have to ask for breakup of all these loans. When those loans are going to come back, what is the interest, what is the terms and conditions, okay? And if it is established that it is given to sister concern or associate concern for non-business transactions, then that loan should not be merely seen as a loan. Because if you want to really adopt a conservative approach, especially in case of risky companies, see, my humble request, if you're dealing in risky cases, please do not take anything on your head. Okay, you got to be conservative. If you're dealing with a risky profile, do not take anything on your head. You got to be conservative. So if it is established that it is given to sister concern or associate concern for non-business transactions, then that loan should be factored in TOL by adjusted TNW. TOL by adjusted TNW means, how do we calculate TOL by TNW? We take total outside liability, we'll divide it by TNW, that is tangible net worth. But what is the difference? In TOL by adjusted TNW, we'll take TOL, total outside liability, in the numerator, and in the denominator, we will be adjusting the tangible net worth for investments made in the associates, for investment made in the subsidiaries, okay? And if loans are given left and right, and if there are no signs of recovery of those loans, then that should also be considered as part of investment. Of course, this could vary based on bank to bank, but as a conservative approach, you can factor this. You can factor this. You can mention that in your proposal note as a prudent measure. Okay. So whenever there is a loan diversion to sister concerns, and if there are no signs of recovery, okay, that loan can be treated as investment itself. See, basically this adjusted TNW formula, it will deduct, I mean, what this formula will do, will take TNW. From TNW, we will be deducting the investments made in related parties. Let's say holding company, subsidiary company, associate company, related or associate concerns and all. Okay. But the focus is investment only. And these mischievous companies, they'll not do it as investment. They'll always keep it in the name of loan. They'll keep it in the name of loan. But that loan will never show any sign of coming back at all. So that should be given a treatment at par with investment. So here on conservative angle, you can put a footnote and say that even the loans given are factored. So in that way, you get to know the real nature. Okay. Otherwise, this will not get adjusted. The bank will get to believe that the long-term solvency is basically measured through what? TOL by TNW. TOL by TNW on the face will communicate only what is good. TOL by adjusted TNW will communicate after factoring the investments in these subsidiaries associates. Okay. But if the loans are not showing any signs of recovery, then that can also be factored, but it's a very, very conservative call. This could vary bank to bank. This could vary bank to bank. Okay, right. So as a prudent banker only, you can take this. And if you don't have that permission to factor these loans, you can at least say that as a footnote. There are loans to related parties and it has not come back. Okay. If that had been factored in TOL by adjusted TNW, the ratio will be something like this. So you can give that indication as well. Okay. And also note this, if the borrower is a company, then there are certain provisions in Companies Act. There are certain provisions in Companies Act. If you take section 185, okay, probably we should have a separate webinar on that, because that has so many, or that has imposed so many conditions when it comes to loans to some other companies. Okay, so keep that in mind. And some companies will be adopting certain gimmicks to hide diversion. Basically, there will be diversion to associate concerns, but they will adopt some gimmicks so that it will not be that visible. See, what will happen is they will resort to practice like including the loans and advances under the head this intercorporate deposit. They will not call it as loan. They'll not call it as advance. Rather, they'll club it under intercorporate deposits. Okay. And I've seen cases where they'll give it as a footnote. The money will be sitting in intercorporate deposit. In footnote only, they'll say that it is given to related party. So on the face of the statement, it will not be visible. And they will also not reveal that it is given to related parties. Instead, they will combine it under some other head, some other loans and advances, and they will just give it as footnote. Or there were some cases where they have parked the amount under the head security deposit. Okay, and they'll give a footnote that this security deposit was given to so and so company, and that company is actually a related party. Okay, so the message is, in all these cases, okay, get the schedule and satisfy where the money had gone, whether it had gone to related parties, because you will be getting the schedule, no, you'll be getting the schedule of related parties, right? And you have to cross check whether it has gone to related parties or not. The next important area to ascertain whether there is any diversion of fund is audit report. You basically have to check whether auditor has issued a qualified report. I hope you know qualified report. Okay, because in audit report we have qualified, unqualified. So unqualified means it's clean. Qualified report means auditor has a reservation on the certain item. So especially you have to see whether auditor has given any qualifications on the matters related to loans and advances. And in case of company, you should also check this CARO report, because there is a specific point where auditor should talk about the matters related to loans. If you go through that also, you will get to know where is the diversion. Okay, so go through loans and advances schedule. Do not take advances for granted. Get the schedule, and loans have bigger lengths. Okay, and go through the audit report, go through the CARO report. See, this diversion will become a serious concern for bank, especially when the business is already reeling under loss. Okay. See, in certain cases, certain genuine business, I'm telling you, they'll be giving loans for facilitating the business activities of sister concerns or associate concerns, and that will come back to the company. Okay, they will have a clear track record. That may be fine, that may be okay. But imagine a scenario where the borrower customer, imagine a scenario where this borrower customer has given a loan to the associate. And when you see that loan amount is significant, what you have to do is you have to call for and check the financials of this associate. Okay. So your borrower has given a loan to associate unit or say the related party. And if the loan amount is material or say significant or a bigger amount, in order to satisfy yourself that the quality of loan, see, already it is loan means you are going to treat it under adjusted TNW and all, okay, or at least you will give a footnote. But you have to satisfy yourself whether this loan will come back to this borrower or not. For that, you have to call for the financials of associate. And just imagine, already the borrower is running in loss, and this borrower has given a loan to the associate, and you are collecting the financials of the associate, and you get to know that this associate is also running in loss. So now that gives rise to the message that this loan is not likely to come back. Okay. So when the borrower customer has given a loan to one associate, and if you go through the financials and if you get to know that associate is running in loss, or there can be even another scenario where this associate may give it to another associate. So associate 1 will give it to another associate. Then that becomes a structured funnel. Okay. Or we can say it is a clear-cut route designed for diversion of funds with no intention to bring back them. Okay. So be very clear. Whenever you see big amounts, it is given as loans to associates, call for their financials, satisfy yourself. Because when you look at the financial of that associate, you will get to know whether it is given to some other company. Because in one famous scam, okay, we got to know, like there was a company, let's say B, it had given loan to associate 1, associate 1 had given to associate 2, associate 2 had given to associate 3, and it went on and it disappeared. Okay, that's how it goes. So be very clear about it. So loans and advances is something you have to really go deeper and deeper to understand whether there is diversion of fund or how the money has gone out of the system. Okay, I'm going very slow. I know I'm going really slow since being a sensitive topic. Okay, so are you all with me so far? Is it adding value for you? If you're deriving value, please type IDV. Please type IDV. IDV stands for I'm deriving value. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad that you are getting benefit. Thank you. So this is one route, or this is one funnel through which money gets diverted. The other one is through investments. Is through investments. Now look at this. Let's say there is company A. This company is investing in another company to make it as a subsidiary. Let's say it is company B. Now, if this company A is investing in company B, from the funds which it has raised exclusively for this purpose, let's say company A has raised funds through equity, or it has retained the profits with an intention to float another company as a subsidiary, let whatever be the purpose, forward integration or backward integration. As long as investment is happening out of the funds raised or retained exclusively for this purpose, it is fine. But instead, let's say this company A is already running with very minimum capital. This company A is already running with minimum capital. It has very high leverage. Okay. And they are running in thin margin, thin profit margin. And if it is going to keep on be investing in subsidiary companies or associates, then what does that mean? Obviously, it means that they are using borrowed money. They are using borrowed money and investing. Like whatever the name we call it, backward integration, forward integration, but it's not happening out of the capital. It's not happening out of the profits. Already they are highly leveraged, they are in thin margin, but they are creating another company using borrowed money. And I don't think bank will fund company A to create company B. Okay. Because generally banks will not be giving loans for investing in subsidiaries associates. Instead, they will be comfortable in lending this subsidiary or associate directly. But they will not give loan to A to form a company B. This is mainly to discourage one company being funded by another company through borrowed money. Okay. So whenever there is an investment by one company in another company in the form of subsidiary or associate, those investments for sure will not come back. So if company A has invested in company B with an intention to keep it a subsidiary, then this money will not come back to A. Probably A, what it will get is the profit distributed in the form of dividend. But whatever the capital it has invested is not going to come back. Okay, now listen. So most of the investment in subsidiary will not come back to business, as these shares are generally not traded. Okay, subsidiary not in the market, stock market, and the holding company also will not sell its share just like that. Okay, so it's a major decision. So in this context, investment in subsidiaries associates should be seen with bigger lens, especially when you have this kind of a scenario: minimum capital, high leverage, thin margin, but company is investing in subsidiaries. So if A, that is company A, is investing in company B, then to that extent, already you will be making adjustment in T&W. That's where you will be calculating this TOL by adjusted T&W. Yes or no? In TOL by adjusted T&W, automatically whatever the investments made in the subsidiaries, you will be factoring it. Okay. But where is the question of diversion coming in? See, already the money had gone out. It is not going to come back. And that's why you are factoring in TOL by adjusted T&W. But whether it is touching the profitability, whether this investment, is it touching the profitability? It's not touching the profitability, right? Because you are making an adjustment for CMA analysis purpose only in the ratio. There is no impact on profitability. Maybe if this company B distributes dividend, profit will increase. But imagine on the other side, this company B is now loss making. This company B is loss making. Let's say company A has invested 100 crore in company B, and this company B is reporting loss year after year. So what is the message? Whatever the 100 crore that is invested in company B is wiped off. So diversion, okay? Or let's say this company B has in turn diverted this money to another company, let's say company C. How you will get to know that? You will get to know that only when you go through the financials of financials of this subsidiary. So the message is, whenever there is an investment in another company to make it a subsidiary or associate company, as a credit officer or as a bank manager, okay, go through the financials of not only the borrower, but also the financials of this subsidiary or associate. Whatever investment you have made, that will be factored in adjusted T&W, but if this subsidiary or associate making is loss reporting entity, and if this money is not going to come back for sure, then this company at least should have made provision for diminution in the value of investment. Again, I come back to the company A and B. Company A has invested 100 crore in company B. As long as company B is functioning perfect, there will be no hit on the P&L of company A. You will be factoring it only in adjusted T&W. But if this company B is going to consistently report loss, and one day it comes to know that this B is of zero value, then at that point, this 100 crore will go and hit the P&L of company A. So P&L, it means the profit will come down to the extent of 100 crore. Or they should at least make provision. They have to anticipate this. So whether the company is doing this or not, that's something you have to check. The 100 crore gone is gone. It is factored in adjusted T&W. But whether that 100 crore is there or not, that is the question. If it is not there, then that will come and hit the P&L. And at that point, your borrower P&L will go for a toss. Okay. So anticipate this. For that, go through the financials. Okay. So as how you analyze the financials of borrower, you should also look into the financials of the subsidiary or associate, especially when the borrower has thin profit margin, high leverage, minimum capital, and when the subsidiary is reporting losses. Okay, so be clear. Okay, so the summary is something like this. Always keep your eyes on loans and advances and also investments. Next, keep your eyes on mainly the related party transactions, RPT, related party transactions. Keep your eyes when the entity is reporting loss on one side and there is increase in loans and advances on the other side. There is increase in investment on the other side. Okay. These are all the things. I mean, these are all the cases where I have seen in real life where the company will be reporting loss on one side, and on the other side, left and right, they'll be giving loans and advances. They'll keep on be making investments. So from where they are getting money? Obvious, very obvious. It's not from the profits. It's not from the capital. Obvious, it's bank money, bank borrowings. Okay, so it's a diversion. And why you have to take it very carefully, why you have to factor it, why you have to present it in the loan proposal, why you have to make a note of it, write about this, is because these are all the things which are clearly visible for all those officials who are going to handle the case when this account becomes a non-performing asset. I hope all of you are with me. See, why I'm saying that you have to focus on this is because just imagine a scenario. You come across a situation like this, okay? So all those forensic officials, or let's say this account turns bad and it goes to ED, it goes to CBI, or it goes to your internal investigation, they will catch hold of this. They will ask you what you have done when things are happening like this. What extra step you have taken to understand all these diversions? Where have you mentioned all this? Are you really aware of the seriousness? Have you informed your sanctioning authorities suitably? Okay, so in that context, all this becomes important. So are you all with me? Why I'm going very slow on this? I said it's a very sensitive topic. These are all the things which you cannot afford to ignore. The price what you will pay for this will be really, really high. It will not be at your manageable level. Okay, if you don't take care of it. I'm not frightening you. Okay, but the message is your job profile demands that. Your job profile demands that. So when you handle business profiles like this with this kind of situations, diversions and all, you have to handle that with due care. You cannot take it for granted. You cannot close your eyes. Okay, all of you, please type with you. Please type with you. It's a serious message. I want you to get into that seriousness mode. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Prasun. Thank you, Deepak. Hari Krishna. Kalyani. Yeah. All of you. Thank you so much. Mohit Bhargava. Thank you. Okay. Let's continue. So keep your eyes on loans to related parties. Keep your eyes when entities reporting loss on one side and there is increase in loans and advances investments on the other side. And keep your eyes on advances to related parties as well. Okay, right. So this is something where you go deeper into the financial statements and ascertain that whether there is any diversion of fund or not. But there is one more super beautiful tool available. Current ratio is an indicator. Current ratio is like a security. He's telling you that there is a diversion. And you make a little more deeper search by getting into the balance sheet, the statements, and you identify where that diversion had taken place. But there is one more statement. It will communicate on the face. Hey, don't worry. Look at here. Things are very clear. Look at this. Do you know which statement is that? There is one statement which will clearly communicate that don't search anywhere, I will show you. I know Prasun will answer. Yeah, the answer is fund flow statement. Okay. Fund flow statement is a simple statement, but it will show on the face because fund flow statement basically does the job of what the first balance sheet will do. Okay. Because for that matter, for any business, their first balance sheet is actually a fund flow statement. First balance sheet is actually a fund flow statement, more or less, not 100%, but more or less it's a fund flow statement. Yeah. So I'll take you through this fund flow statement part. This is something I used to ask in my earlier webinars. So just have a look at this. Have a look at this. You could see three companies, company A, B, C. And company A had a long-term source of 50, short-term source of 50, total 100. Long-term use of 50, short-term use of 50, 100. Company B had 50, 50, 100, 70, 30, 100. C had 50, 50, 100, 30, 70, 100. So all the three companies have something in common, that is sources. Long-term source is 50 for all the three companies. Short-term source is also 50 for all the three companies. But if you look at the user side, for company A, it is 50-50. For company B, long-term use is 70, short-term use is 30. And for company C, long-term use is 30, whereas short-term use is 70. So now just look at this figure and try to process this and answer me, which company is in trouble here? Which company is in trouble? Is it company A or company B? Please answer which company is in trouble. I could see Karthik is saying B, Omkarant is saying C, Kalyani B, Nageshwar Rao B, Ankit B, Prasun is saying it's B, Surendra Mohanty, thank you, thanks for joining, is saying B. See, on the face itself, you can identify, right? On the face of the statement itself, you can identify. That's the power of fund flow statement. This is basically an abridged fund flow statement. I'll show you how the real fund flow statement will look like. But on the face itself, you can conclude that company B is in trouble. Is it so? Or is it company C? Majority said it is B. Majority said B is in trouble. One or two said C is in trouble. Okay, let's try to digest this. I'm just reproducing that information as long-term sources and long-term users. So what I'm doing is I'm just comparing the long-term source with the long-term use. If you take company A, long-term source is 50, long-term use is 50. So that's what captured here. So 50 is long-term source, 50 is long-term use, so nothing is left as surplus. But if you take company B, long-term source is 50, whereas long-term use is 70. So 50 is the long-term source, 70 is the long-term use. So there is a shortage for this long-term use. Shortage of how much? 20. And if you take company C, long-term source is 50, long-term use is 30. So 50 is the source, 30 is the use, and they have surplus. So company C has got a surplus, whereas company B has got a deficit. So now tell me which company is in trouble. Is it B or C? Now I think you should be able to give more clearly. Which company is in trouble? The company with surplus or company with deficit? Obviously, the company with deficit. Here the company B is, or it has got into deficit. Why? Because when they raised long-term funds of 50, they created long-term use of 70. So they had shortage of 20. So how did they manage that shortage? Look at this. Their short-term source is 50, short-term use is 30 only. It means their current liabilities are 50, whereas current assets are 30 only. So they had a surplus current liability. Look at here, short-term source is 50, short-term use is 30. So they had a surplus in current liability funds that they have diverted. And this is what we have seen in the beginning itself. When the current ratio is below 1, it means what? Current liabilities are greater than current assets. And that's what this statement is also revealing. So look, fund flow statement, it clearly shows in case of company B that they have raised long-term funds of 50, but they have used it for long-term purpose 70. So there was a surplus of, shortage of 20. And this shortage of 20 was actually funded by this short-term funds. Because they raised the short-term funds of 50, they've used only 30 out of it. 20 they have used for acquiring some long-term assets or for some long-term use. Okay, this is how diversion happens. Companies, business entities, what they do, they will get, let's say they get CC, cash credit facility, 10 crore. So if their cash credit facility is 10 crore, ideally their current asset should be much, much greater than 10 crore. But what happens is they get this 10 crore, they create current asset of something like 8 crore. So they'll still have 2 crore. What they'll do, they'll use it for acquiring some land and building, plant and machinery, or they will divert it in the form of loans and advances outside their business itself. If it is at least in their business, to some extent there is a satisfaction. Okay, they have used it only for their business purpose. Some or the other day it will generate some money. But instead, if they are diverting, if they are taking it outside the business, it means it is gone. It is gone out of the system. Okay, so that gets revealed in fund flow statement. Let's go a little deeper. So this is how your typical fund flow statement will look like in real life, where you will be capturing the long-term sources. These are all basically long-term sources. Okay, these long-term sources will be like your profits generated, cash profits, whatever the long-term funds that have come in, and any long-term assets sold. That is also long-term fund only, no? So all the long-term sources will be captured, and that will be compared with the long-term uses, and then it will be tested whether there is any diversion or not. If you take this case, have a look at this case. In 2018-19, they had long-term source of 5,650 rupees in lakhs. Okay, 5,650. This 5,650 is their long-term source, so they can use it for long-term purpose. Okay, so what they did, they used 3,700 for purchasing plant and machinery. They used something for paying taxes. They used something for paying dividend. But if you look at this, the source is 5,650, the use is 6,200. So here itself you can see there is a diversion. But where is the diversion? Where the money gone? See, 5,650, when they have 5,650, they have to pay taxes, that is unavoidable. Okay, let's say they want to pay dividend also, that is also fine, because they have made so much of money from operations, right? But they have purchased plant and machinery without mobilizing any long-term funds. They have purchased plant and machinery for 3,700. If they had mobilized some long-term funds over here, it would have helped them, but they didn't do. And because of that, they landed in a deficit of 550. This is 2018-19 position. In 2019-20, let's see what happened. Their profits from operations increased. They also issued some debenture. They collected some money, long-term money. So they had long-term funds of 7,800. And this year also they have to pay dividend. They paid, okay, fine. They want to pay taxes, okay, let them pay. And since they made so much of money, let's say, let us justify their purchase of plant and machinery also. Okay, it means after all this, they are left with some money. What they should have done is they should have kept that money with themselves. Okay, but what happened is, of the 7,800, they have used money for all these purposes. Okay, they've used money for all these purposes. Ideally, they should have concluded with a surplus position, but since they had some money and they found some investment opportunity, purchase of investment, that is investing in someone else's business, and they went and invested how much? 1,500. Did they really had 1,500? No, they didn't have 1,500. They had somewhere close to 1,100 or something. Okay, and because of that, they landed in a shortage of 425. So look, in the first case, there is a deficit. Why this deficit? It's because of purchase of plant and machinery, we can say. In the second case also, the second year also, they are having deficit. Why this deficit? It's because, may not be because of purchase of plant and machinery, but because of this investment. Because of this investment. Ideally, if they want to really make that investment, they should have made the investment only to the extent of long-term funds available. So at least this deficit would have been zero. But they have gone to such an extent where I think here it was like 1,075. 1,075. If they had gone for 1,075, this deficit would have been zero. But they have gone for 1,500. So they had a deficit of 425. So the question is, from where they got this money? 550 from where they got this? 425 from where they got this? Why they are going with the deficit year after year? Why they are not learning from their mistakes? See, in this year, they got this money of 550, some short-term funds, because this is their total long-term funds that is used, and they faced a shortage. It means it's a diversion. Again, in the next year also, it's a diversion. So diversion means it is a potential indicator of NPA. Okay, do not encourage diversion, discourage diversion. If you come across customer profile and if they are into left and right diversion, educate them. Okay, tell them the consequences, tell them that 95% of the businesses are failing only because of diversion of funds. Businesses are not actually failing because there is no market, there is high competition. No, 95% of the business, they get into this trap. Okay, they do not actually, if they prepare this fund flow statement at periodical intervals, they get to know that yes, they are actually heading in wrong direction. Then they can avoid that, but they don't do that. Okay, but as a banker, before committing the public money, before channelizing the public money to some other company, you have to ensure that you are doing it only for the purpose, and you have to ensure that money is going to come back to the bank and generate a return on investment. Okay, for that, this fund flow statement will also help you in a much larger scale, because current ratio on the face will tell you that there is a diversion. Fund flow will tell you from where the money had come and where or how it got diverted. Current ratio on the face. Fund flow statement will tell you how it got diverted. And if you want to go deeper and deeper, that's where you have to go and scan through the loans and advances schedule, investment schedules, all those. Okay, so this is about the next tool. So was it useful for you? Is it a bulb on moment? If it is a bulb on moment, can you please type bulb on? I mean, you are learning something useful. If you feel that you are really learning something useful, helping in your position as a banker, as a credit officer, or as a bank manager, okay, please type bulb on. And these are all the areas where you have to really exercise care to save your skin. Okay, so here the focus is saving the skin. Most of my students, okay, predominantly, now I can say 90% of my students are bank executives working in different parts of the country. So I believe that it's my responsibility to educate them on this sensitive area, because many times mistakes happen on account of ignorance. ignorance on the part of the customer because they do not know the financial discipline, ignorance on the part of the banker because they are not aware of these kind of tools that are available, or they are not aware of the traps that are behind this. Okay, so yes, I could see many of you are saying bulb on, so thank you so much. And just allow me, I'll just take another 3 or 5 minutes to introduce the courses I have for bank executives. So just go through that, because if you derive value now, it's going to be value packed in courses as well. So just stay with me. Thanks a lot. What you have seen now is only the tip of the iceberg. What you have seen now is only the tip of the iceberg. But the best part is you have understood whatever I have explained so far. Thank you very much. The reason why I say it's a tip of the iceberg is because in reality, when you do the credit appraisal, when you do the financial analysis, you have to read balance sheet line by line. You should focus or put your attention on every item in balance sheet. You have to analyze various set of financial ratios. There will be liquidity, solvency, profitability, return on investment ratios, various set of ratios. Then you have to study the cash flow statements in depth. You have to focus on item by item items. You should see where they generated money, where they have used, how they have used. Then you should also study their fund flow statement in depth, and again in between the lines, to identify whether any fund diversion have taken place. Then you should develop special skill for assessing the working capital requirement of the borrower. Here you got to empathize with the borrower, but at the same time you should also protect the bank's interest. Next, you should be able to put up a comprehensive loan proposal if a borrower comes for a term loan for putting up a project, because this requires viability study. You have to look into their repayment capacity, DSCR, FOIR, break-even, sensitivity, and so on. Next, you should also be able to work seamlessly on CMA report, the basic Excel document which captures the past financial data as well as the current estimate and projection. And from this only all kind of analysis will happen. Next, you should be able to arrive at credit risk rating for the borrower. You should be able to come across different types of business entities, business models profile, and you should also be able to understand the Forex impact on import-export transactions. So what all this means? All this means you got to learn more, right? So how many of you are really ready to learn more? Because once again, I reiterate, what I have showed you today is only tip of the iceberg. So how many of you are interested in learning more? If you are really interested in learning more, if you want to take this journey to the next level, if you want to improve your skills that is required for your job, and that's the fundamental for your banking career, then type ILM. ILM stands for I am interested in learning more. ILM stands for I am interested in learning more. Whoever interested, please type ILM. Thank you very much. Can I have your permission to introduce the courses which I have published for bankers, which will solve all the problems we discussed? If you're permitting me, just type yes. Just type yes. I'll take that as your approval. Financial and Credit Analysis Mastery Bundle. It's a bundle of course I have created for financial and credit analysis purposes. To start with, we have course number 1, our bestseller course, Banking Credit Analysis Process. By taking this course, you will get a complete picture of banking credit analysis process, starting with credit analysis, financial analysis, ratios, cash flows, fund flows, working capital, term loan, and so on. It's basically 30 plus sections, 200 plus lectures. This is one of our best selling course and it's included in this package. Then comes course number 2, how to carry out financial analysis as a banker. This course focuses exclusively on financial analysis, covering how to carry out financial analysis through ratios, fund flows, and cash flows. Then we have course number 3, how to carry out term loan appraisal and analysis as a banker. This is a course which is going to take you through the technical process of term loan appraisal and assessment.
because here you have to understand the techno-economic viability of the project. You should arrive at the cost of project, means of finance that requires a different set of approach. You should understand the production factors of a project. You should understand the technical analysis involved in term loan appraisal and assessment, and this course will take you through that. Then we have course number 4, how to prepare CMA report for bank loan. CMA report is basically that Excel spreadsheet which is going to capture the past financials, present, estimate and future projections, and it's by looking at the indicators generated out of the CMA report, bankers are going to take critical decision. So in this course, through 8 sections, I have covered the CMA report preparation process in depth with an elaborate comprehensive case study. Then we have course number 5, how to read balance sheet. In this course, I have picked up a real life balance sheet from stock exchange, and I have explained in and out of balance sheet reading process. By taking this course, you will develop confidence in reading balance sheet. Then comes course number 6, how to read CIBIL report. By taking this course, you will develop the ability to read the CIBIL report, read in between the lines, as well as read each and every line of CIBIL report and frame the credit opinion of the borrower. Then comes course number 7, how to prepare cash budget for bank loans. This course will help you when a borrower approaches you for short-term loans, ad hoc loans, or for letter of credit. So by taking this course, you will get the complete picture of cash budget with exposure to the format and solving real case studies. So it's basically 7 courses which I have introduced, and this 7 course package is what I call as Financial and Credit Analysis Mastery Bundle. And the price of this 7 courses works out to somewhere close to 13,000, but I'm going to give it at a discounted price for you today because you have attended this webinar, and the offer price what I give you is 4,990 rupees. Okay, but I'm not going to just stop with this. I'm going to give you more. I'm going to give you a lot more. I'm going to give you lots and lots of bonus. You are going to get course number 8, registration and licenses required to run business in India. It will take you through that entire process. Course number 9, how to carry out credit risk rating for non-trading entities. Course number 10, here you will learn banking credit analysis in depth once again through various case studies. So how many courses now? It's 10 courses of value close to 19,000 rupees, but you are not going to pay that amount. It's same 4,990. It means you get these 3 courses as bonus, but it is not just this. I'm going to give you some more bonus. Course number 11, financial statement analysis, a complete study. Course 12, master class on working capital management. Course 13, accounting and finance for bankers. Course 14, NPM management, a complete study. So how many courses? It's 14 courses of value close to 27,000, but I'm going to give it to you at the same price of 4,990. Not yet over, some more bonus. Here comes course number 15, where you will learn business finance secrets. So you will be wearing the hats of the entrepreneur so that you can understand the business finance secret process. Then comes the next course, finance for non-finance executives. This will be your savior if you are from non-finance background. Then we have the next course, basics of forex management, a complete study. This will save you if you're going to deal with import export customers. So how many courses now? It's 17 courses of value close to 33,000, but I'm offering it to you at the same price of 4,990. Not yet over, some more bonus. Here comes course number 18 for you, which is legal and regulatory aspects of banking, part 1 and part 2. And I'm also going to give you a course on accounting basics in 66 minutes and a course on fair practices code on lenders liability. So how many courses now? It's 21 courses of value close to 37,000, but I'm going to give it to you at the same price of 4,990. It means you get all these free, you get all these as bonus. But bonus not yet over, some more. You have the next course, that is basic elements related to bank loan proposal. This course will teach you how to write bank loan proposal. Then there is a course on credit policy, products, delivery, appraisal, risk and rating. Then you get access to the course called Export Finance, Priority Sector Lending and Retail Loan. And you also get access to the course Collateral Securities, a comprehensive study. So how many courses? It's basically 25 courses, of which the 7 courses are main courses, and I'm giving you bonus. All the remaining courses comes to you as bonus because you have attended this webinar. So what is the overall value? The overall value is close to 45,000 of 25 courses. It's 3,200 plus lectures. You are going to get lifetime access to all these pre-recorded courses. You can access them in your mobile app, in desktop, and the price is close to 45,000, but you are going to get it for same 4,990, and it is not yet over, something more. I'm going to give you access to ebooks on current ratio, debt equity ratio, cash flow statement, capital structuring, financial break-even, capital budgeting. So it's basically 12 ebooks you are going to get access. And I'm also going to give you access to certain e-resources. You will get access to project report template, CMA template. You will also get access to a template which you can use for planning your child's future education. And you will also get audiobook on types of financing. You will also get access to test series related to analysis of financial statements, working capital requirements, and ratio analysis. And something more, you will also get access to career guidance material which is related to professional courses for banking executives and a material on all about certified credit professional. So it's basically 25 courses of value close to 45,000, 3,200 plus lectures, 20 ebooks and resources of value close to 2,000 rupees. You get lifetime access for these pre-recorded courses and e-resources. You can access them in mobile app, desktop, laptop. Its value is close to 47,000, but you are going to get it today for 4,990 only. This is a one-time opportunity for you. Make use of this opportunity. Enroll now.
So thanks for this opportunity. I'm going to share the link. Please check your chat section. Whoever watching this in Zoom, check your chat section. Whoever watching this in YouTube, check the chat section as well as description below. I'm placing the link now, and this link is valid only for next 20 minutes. So if you want to continue your learning journey, if you want to take it to the next level, if you want to make best use of this opportunity, your time is on now. It's going to be next 20 minutes. So if you believe that this webinar has added value for you, and if you want to continue your learning journey, now the ball is in your court. Please click on the link. It will take you to the course. If you already have a student account in CA Raja classes, directly you can enroll. Otherwise, it will prompt you to open up a student account, and then you can complete the enrollment registration process. Let me also share some of the feedback given by our earlier students. Just have a look at it. If you still wonder whether you should enroll in this package or not, just look back your past 60 plus minutes you have spent. Just try to answer all the 4 questions. Question 1, did you really understood what was explained? If answer is yes, whether you are able to relate with the things that were explained in this webinar. If answer is yes, if you derived value in the 60 plus minutes, and if answer is yes, and if you had that aha moment or bulb on moment that you have learned something really meaningful, useful, then I would suggest go and enroll confidently, because you will get that throughout this package, throughout the courses. That's the assurance from my side. If you have this question as to how you can access these courses, just have a look at the screen. If you enroll now, you can access them in desktop, laptop by visiting our portal. You can also install our app. We have app for Android phone users as well as iPhone users. You can download the app from Play Store, App Store, just search for CA Raja classes. And the courses, whatever you enroll, will be available in the app also. And the best part is you can download the courses into your mobile within the app, and you can access them later even without internet connection. After enrolling the course, if you have some doubts or if you need some guidance, we are going to provide you 24/7 lifetime support through our Telegram community. We have a community for financial analysis where 1000 plus bankers have already signed up. This is only for paid students who are coming to this specific course. You can ask all your questions and you will get reply. You can also learn from question answers of other participants. I'm also sharing the screenshot of our Telegram community. This is where most effective learning happens, because on a daily basis, there will be discussions, Q&As, and many take advantage of this. Okay. And now it's time for you to take your call. And before you take that final call, let me give you a bold assurance. Let me give you a bold assurance. My bold assurance is this package will give you at least 100 times value for the money you are going to commit. That's my assurance. You will get at least 100 times value for the money you are going to commit in this course, because that's the kind of feedback I have from earlier students. That's the kind of upskilling happened for our earlier students. Many of them have come back to me saying that they got their promotions, cleared their credit examinations. They were able to do their credit related job with utmost confidence. So it's because of such a feedback, I'm giving you a high level of assurance. And for you, this is not an expense, rather a one-time investment. And what you are going to get is lifetime access to the courses. And I'm giving you a lifetime Q&A support through our Telegram community. You will not find such an opportunity elsewhere or anywhere in the market. So I'm saying it very boldly, and I can give you that assurance. So whoever enrolling now, please type I am enrolling. Please type I am enrolling, or simply type IME. IME, it means you are enrolling now. Upon completion of enrollment, please share the payment proof to this WhatsApp number or to this email. You will also get invoice and email confirmation. I'll just show you the process. I'll just show you the process, how you can access these enrolled courses. Before that, whether all of you are with me, just type with you, because it's basically an internet connectivity check. Now and then I get that electric shock, internet connection, boof. Okay, all of you are with me. Good, great. So let me just take you through. The process is like this. You can access the courses through desktop, laptop, through browser. Go to browser or go to Google, types courses.carajaclasses.com. carajaclasses.com is our website. Courses.carajaclasses.com is our e-learning portal. Okay. So all the courses are listed here only. Courses.carajaclasses.com. So click on that link. It will open up. On the top right, you will see login button. Okay. Once you open, on the top right, you will see login button. So once you click that login button, a box like this will open where you have to give your user ID and password. Yeah, Mridu, yes, I will look into. Okay. See, once you click that login button, there will be a sign up or login button. If you click that, it will open up this box and it will have email and password. See, your user ID is nothing but the email with which you have registered in our portal. Many students, they get into confusion. Sir, what is my user ID? I forgot. What is my password? I forgot. For you, answer is our first ever mail from CA Raja classes to you is your user ID and password. I repeat, our first ever mail. So how do you find that first ever mail? So I don't know when I signed up, all these questions arises. For that, answer is very simple. Go and open your email. There will be a search bar on the top right. In that, just type CA Raja classes at carajaclasses.org. That is our official email. Okay. CA Raja classes at carajaclasses.org. And if you click search, it will list out all the mails we have sent. In that, you go back to our first ever mail. First ever mail is welcome mail. That will have your user ID and password sent by our system. And in that, you will have this. Okay. Is that clear? Just type clear so that I can proceed further, because I'm saying all this such that you do not face any difficulties later in accessing the course. Okay, perfect. Right. Now give your user ID, password, login. Once you log in, you will see a page something like this. On the top, you will see my courses. Can you see that? My courses. Click that my courses. Simple. That will show the course what you have enrolled today. It will show whatever courses you have enrolled today, including the course you have enrolled today. And if you click on the course you have enrolled today, that will list out all the 25 courses included in the bundle, all the 12 ebooks, all the 8 e-resources. And if you click on any of the course, it will open. On the left hand side, you will see the lecture titles. On the right hand side, you will see the screen, video screen. So click on the lecture title, right hand side, it will play. You can make it full screen. Once you are done with one lecture, by clicking next, you can move on to the next lecture. So this is the procedure. It is as simple as YouTube. Okay. Only thing is, it's a secured one. You have to give your user ID and password. Yeah. Just give me a moment. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Abhishek, yes, I have seen your payment. I will give you acknowledgement to you personally. Okay. Yeah. So this is the procedure for accessing the courses through desktop. We also have mobile learning app, both Android phone users, iPhone users. Android phone users, you have to go to Play Store. iPhone users, you have to go to App Store. Okay, go to Play Store, App Store. Search for CA Raja classes. Search for CA Raja classes and you will find them here. Yeah, this is our app. Click and install the app. Click and install the app. It will ask for some basic confirmation like any other applications. So click login. See here, the beauty of the app and desktop access is both are integrated. So you can access something in the desktop laptop and you can continue accessing them in the app also. It means both are integrated. For both, you can use the same user ID and password. Okay, right. So give the necessary permissions. You have to give your user ID, password, login, and you will see something like this, not exactly the same screen, but something like this. And on the top, you will see this 3 bar, right? Okay, you have to touch that. You have to touch that bar and that will open up a pane like this. And in that, you have to touch this My Courses. Touch this My Courses. So that will show all the courses you have enrolled, including the course what you have enrolled today. That's the procedure. And if you touch that, it will list out all the courses included in the package. Fine. So you can click on the course, you can start playing. And the best thing is, see here, you can see this, no? This button. It's for download. So if you want to download this video, you can download, but downloaded content will be available within the app only. but even without internet connection, later on you can access this. So whatever videos which you consider as very critical, you can download, or if you want to download the entire course, you can go and download, but it will consume your overall memory. So in that way, you can, in that way you have to plan for it. Yeah, Jiten Rai, don't worry. I think you have some problem in resetting the password. Don't worry, I will do it for you. I have seen your WhatsApp message also. I will help you out. Okay. So this is the procedure for accessing in desktop, laptop, as well as mobile app, both Android and iPhone users. So far, is it clear for all of you? If it is clear, please type clear. Then I will go with our bonus material. Perfect. Thank you so much. Here comes the bonus material. Why I call it as bonus material? Because it's available only for creamy layer. And you are so special because you have that burning desire to learn, to upskill yourself, to grow up in your hierarchy. And you should also be growing in monetary terms. So for that, some foundational things you have to do. How to increase your salary or business income. This is something I read in a powerful book and I converted that as a lecture. I am going to share it with you. It's for next 7 minutes. And with that, we'll come to the end of this webinar. Yeah, let's continue.
It's midnight 1 a.m. When I read this, I thought immediately I should convert this as a lecture for our YouTube subscribers. How to increase your salary or business income. Salary increment. This will be the wish of every employee. But many of them think that this salary increment is decided either by the economic environment or it is decided by superiors. But the fact is, it is decided by what we do or what we don't do. Our position, that is in what stage we are, how we are, was actually chosen by us. If you are not satisfied with your current salary, if you are not satisfied with your current income in your business, then you have to ask your boss. You have to ask your boss. For that, you should stand in front of a mirror and negotiate with your boss. The person you see in mirror is your boss. This person only decides your salary. It means you only decide your salary. You only decide your business income. If your present income is not increasing beyond a certain level, it means you touched your highest level of income for the present skill and present knowledge you have. That means you have reached your maximum. So if you want to earn more, then you got to acquire new skills, you got to acquire new knowledge so that others will be willing to pay you more. And one good thing is, you can become what you wish. But that requires some efforts. Efforts are basically, you have to read more, you have to upskill yourself, you have to engage in continuous practice, continuous learning, and you have to continuously focus on progress. In this book, author talks about a research conducted by a professor of Chicago University. In that, what they have found is 80% of people register only 3% annual increase in income, whereas 20% of people recorded 11% annual increase in income. So whoever coming under this 80%, they had only 3% annual increase in income and they never progressed. They always worried about money. They had shortage of money at the time of their retirement and they never learned anything new since their first job. They never read anything new. They never learned any new skill. They didn't bother to upskill themselves. They were doing same or routine job again and again. And people around them also never read anything new. They had no improvement. And because of this, they believed that others are also living in the same way. They believed the lifestyle of others is also similar like this. So that's about 80% people. Whereas remaining 20% people, they had 11% annual increase in income. How? All of them were lifelong learners. They read something about business. They always read something about self-development. They participated in seminars, workshops to improve their skills. They networked with like-minded people. They discussed which makes them better. They discussed about ideas and insights which will help them to achieve results at a faster pace. So, if you want to achieve higher income, whether it be in the form of increment in salary or increase of income in your business, you have to become a lifelong learner. So how to become lifelong learner? Author prescribes 3 steps. To become lifelong learner, he is suggesting 3 steps, and these steps will bring total change in the way you attract higher income at a pace greater than you think. What are those 3 steps? Let's see one by one. Step number 1, you have to read. You have to read daily, at least 1 hour every day, something related to your field. You have to spend at least 1 hour every day in reading matters related to your field. It can be related to your job, it can be related to your business, and when you do this, please keep away newspapers, magazines, TVs, computers. Put your entire focus on reading. Anything that helps in improving your job, improving your business, keep this, make it as a daily routine. If you do this at least 1 hour per day, you will be able to read 1 book at least per week. It means in a year you will be able to complete 50 books. If you want to get PhD in a top university, you have to read and research 30 to 50 books. But by reading 1 hour per day, what you're going to get is new ideas. And by planning how to implement those ideas in your job, in your business, you will get results, and that is something equivalent. That is, your reading becomes equivalent to a PhD. So that's step 1. What is step 2? You have to listen. You have to listen to audiobooks. You have to listen to audio lectures. Nowadays, we can also include online courses. You have to listen to them at least when you travel. That is, when you don't drive, when you are traveling, make use of your smartphone and listen to them. On an average, 500 to 1000 hours of businessmen or working executives are spent on travel. That's equal to 12 to 24 working weeks, or that can be equated with 1 semester in a university. So make best use of this time to listen to audiobooks, lectures, online courses related to your job, related to your business. Step number 3, go back to learning. Whenever you get training, whether it is your internal training or external training, attend and learn. And if required, you should even pay and learn more. If you have decided what level you should achieve, then you have to find out what and all you should learn so that you can achieve that targeted level. And you should master time management. You should master negotiation skills, discussion and conversations. You should achieve expertise in goal setting, finding solution for problems, strategic planning, and you got to acquire new skills that could lead to faster growth. So these 3 steps are very critical if you want to become a lifelong learner, and only those who become lifelong learner will be able to increase their salary or business income. I've read this in a book called Personal Success.
Yeah, I read this in a book called Personal Success. Personal Success. Even if you look around people who are successful in your own organization, they are the people who have implemented these kind of strategies, these kind of steps. Okay. So how many of you find this useful? Find this useful. It has helped you to get some insights. If you find this useful, please type useful. So if you find this really useful, please type useful. I try to implement this on a daily basis, and I could see the power, it's a transformation effect. Okay. So see, all of you would have received a mail. Okay. You would have received 2 mail. Mail number 1 is invoice. Mail number 2 is the confirmation that you have enrolled in this course, how you can access through desktop, laptop, through app. It will also have the link for Telegram. And on the top of it, it has something known as Banking Premium Membership. Okay, it has something known as Banking Premium Membership. That is something which will make you a lifelong learner. And I wish to share that to you through WhatsApp only. Okay, right. So just go through the mail. You'll be getting a WhatsApp message with a small video that will just explain about our Banking Premium Membership, and whoever interested can go for it. And I'm giving my WhatsApp link. Okay, so whoever have enrolled today, please use this link. And just, I mean, if you're watching this in your mobile, okay, click this link. It will take you to WhatsApp. Just send that message. It means it will automatically generate a message, enrolled mastery bundle. Yes, I got message from Dhananjay Pandey. Like that, all of you, whoever have enrolled today. So, I mean, it's a easy way for me because you communicate to me. So automatically I will save all your details. And in turn, I will share you my acknowledgement in WhatsApp once again, and also about Banking Premium Membership. Just go through Banking Premium Membership. If you want to be really a lifelong learner, it will help you in a significant way. That is request number 1. And whoever have enrolled today, you'll be getting access to the Telegram. By now you would have got, because it's automatic mail. You should have received that. Okay. So 2 things: connect with me through WhatsApp. And for any clarification guidance, you can connect with me through this email. Okay. Okay, fine. And so more or less we are done. And if you really derived value in today's session, you can type IDV, and with that note, you can sign off. Thank you all.